Alright, so for these last two, they're not multiple choice on this, but on the test they will be. I'm just going to briefly talk about how this works and remind you what the parts mean here. So we talked about this when we did exponential functions. In this form, it tells you a lot. The a value tells you the y-intercept of the exponential function, and the b tells you as your exponential function goes up by a constant amount on the x-axis, you're multiplying this to get to the next number. So for instance here, the y-intercept is going to be 3, so we immediately know this one that's going to cross right there. From there, let's say I want to find some more points. All right, let's say I want to plug in. I want to see what's my y going to equal and my x equals say 1 along here. So I'm going to plug. Right, so I'll just do times 2 to the x power. So I'm going to plug 1 in. So it's 3 times 2 to the first. 2 to the first is just 2, so it's 3 times 2 equals 6. So x equals 1, y equals 6. And so what happened there is we multiplied, right? 3 times 2 made 6. So now next it's going to be 12 because you're going to multiply the 6 by 2, or yeah, by 2 to make 12. So I can plug it in if I wanted to test it. Alright, plug 2 in. Y equals 3 times 2 to the second power. Well, 3 times 2 to the second is 3 times 4. So yes, it would equal 12. So cross right there. And then let's say you tested a negative number for these. Let's say we just tested, say, -1, whatever. Y equals 3 times 2 to the negative first. Well, remember, that means 2, it's 2 to the first in the denominator, so it's like 3 times 1 over 2 to the first power, which is just 2. So it's 3 over 2. So let's see, the y is 3 over 2, which is 1.5. Should be, let's see, about right here. So the graph is going to look, you can see what's happening here. It goes up and it will approach the x-intercept there, like that. So for this problem, same idea. That's telling us the y-intercept, and this is telling us where we're multiplying by to get to the next I guess integer. So 1/2 is the y-intercept, so that would be 1 is right there, so 1/2 would be right there. So I'm just going to plot that. Whoops. Let's see, right there. And then what's interesting about this one is, let's say I'm going to figure out what will y be when x is 1. Well, if I plug 1 in, I get y equals 1/2 times 1/3 to the first. Well, that's just 1/2 times 1/3, which is 1/6. Oops, let's see, let's make that neater. 1/6. So 1/6 is like really small. It's smaller than 1/2. So it's just at 1 is getting closer to the x-axis. But we learned when we did this that it will never touch it. So it's smaller. It's closer. It's just going to get closer and closer, and it'll get closer and closer and closer, but it will never reach the x-axis. It will approach it, but will never reach it. So maybe we should plug in, say -1 or -2 to see what it will look like over here. So real quick. Let's see if I do say I do -2 or -1. Let's say you do -1. So y equals 1/2 times 1/3 to the negative first. Okay, so 1/3 to the negative first is like, what that's saying is it's 1/2 times 1/1/3. Well, okay, 1/1/3. 1/3 goes into 1 3 times. This is actually saying 1/2 times 3, which is 3/2, which is 1.5. 1 1/2. So 1 1/2 is, let's see, 1 would be here, right? So -1, 1 would be here, so 1.5 would be right there. So let's see, about right there. And we can see what's happening here. We can see what the graph looks like. It's going to go kind of like this. Okay, down here it will approach it, we'll never reach it. And so that's what this graph will look like. So a couple of things we know about this. What this kind of shows us is, right, this is the y-intercept, and then for this is, if it's a fraction less than 1, it's going to be going down like this. Whereas like from number 39, this was a whole number, right? It was 2, I believe. So if this number is bigger than 1, it will go up. So that tells you a lot. And so on multiple choice question, you should definitely consider that.